Hi everyone, I'm Valerie. I'm here with Linda from Color Storms Yarn, and we're talking about Weesh. Today we are recapping and finishing the book. So, what did you think, Linda?
Well, I'm so sad to say goodbye to this book, so we're extending it one more time to talk about our takeaways from the
Mhm.
various chapters. There were lots of them.
So many rich ideas that really thought provoking for me, and some ideas I knew I worked with a lot, and other ideas were like this big light bulb moment.
Yeah. Yeah, I think for I'll just read some of the things I wrote here.
Yeah.
For example, it seems obvious to say, but I needed to hear that I can keep growing in character and in my craft, and they help each other. This year, I was trying to think, well, what did I learn this year? I learned circular weaving, assigned pooling,
Mm.
mosaic crochet,
Wow.
and how to make leggings on a knitting machine.
Ooh.
So obviously, you should keep growing and learning new things, but I have a tendency to fall back into what's comfortable for me. And I feel like this book helped me to be a little braver.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking about new things that I tried this year. I think that for me, I have to be super conscious of how I water my creativity
Mm.
and making sure that I'm a student as much as I'm a teacher, and that we often don't talk about the relationship between learning and teaching.
Mm.
And I think we've all had the experience where you've been learning something from someone and they're stale, they're burnout, they don't like it. Maybe they're having a bad day, or maybe it's just not their jam anymore, but that's never a fulfilling learning experience.
Yeah, you've got a burnout teacher, right?
um, I'm thinking about times when, like, you can tell that the teacher's almost teaching off of a script.
Mm.
And for me, that's boring.
Mhm.
I want to know that the teachers I'm learning from are continuing to push the envelope and ask questions and discover new things and discover new to them things. And for as big as knitting and crochet are, there are still so many undocumented new ideas, new ways to do things, new iterations, and I'm here for it.
That's a fantastic sentence. That's a great thing to remember. And you're right. Teachers that are actively learning are more fun to learn from.
Mm-hmm.
And often they're more excited about what they're doing. They often will admit to learning from their students.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they'll get an idea even as they're teaching.
Yeah.
And it makes the whole thing more dynamic. Yeah, I guess maybe because I was homeschooling children and knitting was my escape for a long time, I didn't
Mm-hmm.
have the wherewithal to learn new things. But happily, as the children have moved out and grown up, and I have a lot more time than I used to. Perhaps I can just give myself the grace and say it wasn't because I was a bad learner. It was just because now I have more mental energy to embrace it.
Of course. And like, knitting doesn't happen in a vacuum. So if we choose to knit, it needs to fit our lifestyle. We talk a lot about how life has cycles and
Mm.
seasons. And so if you have young children at home, knitting fills a different piece of your life. And you and I have moved through those cycles a little bit, those seasons, and we've made some different discoveries than we thought from 10 years ago. Or, just like life evolves, so does the knitting.
Yeah, so with this book, the way you're talking about it, I'm realizing that I'm learning to see myself differently because I've kind of had myself in this box that I'm not good at learning and I'm stuck in a rut and I have a hard time learning new things like that. And I'm not a musician, things like that, because my brother went to Peabody and my son majored in music. So I have nothing, but I'm slowly kind of, I feel like more than any other book I've read, Kate Davies just tries to give creators permission to love themselves where they're at
Mm-hmm.
and see our weaknesses as potential areas of growth or not. Or, and I've just been learning to see myself differently, that I can learn new things. And even though I don't have all the musical background that my brother has, I do have what I do have, and it's not nothing. So I'm learning to see myself in a more positive light with more potential to keep growing.
I love that. It's so good. I mean, for me, it was really interesting that Kate Davies kept coming back to the correlations between knitting and music. And I feel like there was an element of music in almost every single chapter.
Mm. I hadn't picked up on that, but I see what you're saying.
Yeah. And it's interesting to me, too. I don't know if you've ever done The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron, but she talks about the idea and concept of shadow creativity,
Hmm.
where somebody has an interest in music and believes that they're not a good musician. So they've got the interest and the incorrect belief that they're a bad musician. And so what they do is position themselves in the music industry, but not as the artist.
Hmm.
And that this happens over and over and over and over again
Mm.
across all creative outlets.
The shadow artist.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm using music as an example, but that's a very clear. Like maybe they're not a musician, but they're a producer, or maybe they're not a musician, but they're a manager of talent, or,
Wow.
like,
That's beautiful.
well,
That
that's,
she brings light to that, I guess with the hope that someone can come out of the shadow.
well, her idea and concept is that we're all innately creative, and that's part of the human condition.
I
And I think Kate
100% believe
Davies
that. Yes.
talks about that a lot also.
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
that's very cool. That's very cool. Yeah, I 100% believe that. I can remember, well, the class that I took where I met my husband way back in the 80s, um, that was the tenet of that class, was that
Mm,
we are all creative human beings. We need to take that creativity in whatever profession we're in because it's going
mm-hmm.
to benefit whatever situation you find yourself. Creative
Yeah.
thing.
We
Yeah.
talk about that a lot, the everyday creativity.
Now, another thing I got from this book that I really love is "Hodge your Weesht."
Mm.
It's such a great phrase because it sticks with me.
Mm-hmm.
It's an unusual phrase, so it's has stuck with me and it's helped me to not push and to listen better.
Mm.
I learned that tan, the color tan, the most boring of all colors, can be the most beautiful color because it shows off all the other colors so well.
Yeah, I'm working a lot with the color orange right now, and orange is a loaded color. In the popular opinion, you either love it or you hate it, and there's not many in between. I'm thinking about something that somewhere along the line I picked up. If you love one color, a good tip is just to pair it with the color you hate, and usually those work really well together.
That's a good color tip. I like
As
that.
a quick and dirty color tip. So, of course, I love blues and purples and greens. And the exact opposite on the color wheel are those orangey oranges, that lime yellow, the yellow green. Like,
Hmm. Nothing makes a blue pop like a good orange.
it's the truth. And I'm learning to embrace that. But it's a little outside of my color comfort level.
Yeah, that's cool. I learned more about doubt leading to improvement,
Mm.
something I knew but had forgotten about. Um, Her chapter about getting lost was really good for me to hear because I'm not good at that. So it's something that I'm trying to give myself more permission to do. Just give yourself the gift of time and the permission to do badly and just get lost in trying something. So productivity has always kind of been such a big deal to me, and it's funny when my husband and I, when we talk about the end of our day, we both just, productivity is our big thing. Oh, I accomplished this and I accomplished that and I accomplished this and I accomplished that. And a bad day is when, yeah, I didn't get anything done. I didn't get anything accomplished. So her chapter about getting lost helped me to appreciate just having a day where you're exploring and not accomplishing anything, but there's value in just being and trying something new and failing.
I feel like that is the design process in a nutshell.
Mm.
And that, like, that nugget of an idea requires exploration and patience and doubt. And it's encouraging for me when I hear very professional, prestigious designers say, oh, to get this final product, I had to start, or I heard somebody say, I start every single project 3 times,
Wow.
which was like music to my ears because I already do that. And it's something that I sort of beat myself up over because I just want to like do it one time and move forward. But part of the learning for me is the repetition. And by the third time, I'm getting a result that I like. And the other piece is when a designer says, to get this beautiful fade, I had to do it 5 times.
Wow.
Nobody talks about the invisible 5 times. We just see the beautiful color gradient.
Yeah.
And knowing that that's the dedication to the process, the dedication to their doubt, the dedication that they have to keep working this idea until they are 100% pleased with the finished product and result, like, speaks a lot to your idea and concept of just being.
Ah,
Like that messy middle where you're not really accomplishing anything and you don't even really like what you're getting, but you're finding pieces of the puzzle.
Yeah, that's great, and good for them for telling that backstory, right?
Can
The
I just
backstory
like,
is so interesting.
because we just see the glossy pictures and we know that there's work behind it, but it's unarticulated most of the time. And they make it look so easy.
Yeah, honestly, when I think about telling a backstory like that, I think either no one's going to be interested or it's too hard to share. Like not that not that not that I mind sharing, not too hard to share because I'm proud, but hard to share because it takes time. It takes time to go ahead and remember those details, what went wrong, and talk about it, write about it, and put it out there for people to read. And so when people do go to the trouble of kind of um, journaling the steps that they do, that's really nice.
I mean, that's like, if you want to create, if you want to design textbook, this is a great place to start.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, but I think that sort of Kate Davies did that before she published the completed bound work, right? Like, it was something that she did with a group every week or every month, and together the group worked on the concepts and ideas, right?
This book certainly came about as a group effort. I know that much. I believe she wrote all the essays and wrote all the patterns that came out with the essays.
Mm-hmm.
Her husband does the photography, and I know she has editors and people around that support her company and her work.
Yeah.
And that's all I know. Um, there,
Wasn't it like a knit along or something though? Like, where each one, like, you joined and then she released each essay and had like a group project or something. Did I
yeah,
misunderstand that?
no, every year for a while, she's had a book club. I
Okay.
just finished one that was a little bit unusual in that it was sort of focused in the winter time. I think most of her
Mm,
book clubs start in January and go for 3 months or something like that. This one
nice.
last year was like October, November, December, or November, December, January. And she writes articles and submits patterns. This book is a little unusual in that it also had the exercises
Hmm.
for creativity. So I think this work for me stands out in that way, in that it is far reaching. I mean, if we're all supposed to be creative human beings, this course speaks to knitters and crafters as human beings, but the principles are really very broad for all kinds of human beings. So yeah, I mean, book clubs every year. This one maybe being a little book club plus kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Essays and patterns plus exercises and creativity.
I think that even someone who doesn't knit or crochet would appreciate the essays. And it's a she uses broad enough examples
Mhm.
that even if you didn't knit or crochet in context, you could understand
Oh,
what
yeah.
she was trying to say or the concept.
Yeah, because often the exercises were not related to knitting or crochet. They were related to poetry or listening to music.
Mm-hmm.
So I hesitate to say that it might be a book for anyone to read because I think it focuses perhaps more on the creative arts.
I agree.
But certainly I feel like it's very, very broad in terms of the audience potential.
Mhm.
Um, I loved it. I read about half of it, a couple years ago, and I thank you for reading it with me again because I got more out of it this second time reading it. And I can't wait to see what we do next.
It's so good. I just really enjoyed. It's such a simple book and yet so deep and complex and juicy and thought provoking. I really enjoyed reading Kate Davies' words and thinking about things in a new to me way. It was really refreshing and a wonderful experience.
Yeah, thank you, Kate Davies. I mean, if this book cost her, I mean, just thank God for people who take the time to write like this. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's not easy. There's a
No.
cost to it, and appreciate that she shares so much of herself and her thoughts.
Yes, for sure.
Thank you for joining us,
So
everybody
good.
who is listening, and leave comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts too. Valerie and I are exploring our next project, and we'll let you know as soon as we figure it out. Bye bye, everyone.